people are doing quite clever and really interesting statistics. Well, I think how many you read that? No, I was just we can get
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
Könntest du noch eine Nahaufnahme?
Okay, more or less understand. Thank you. No.
Ideally,
ma in modo particolare dell'area archeologica di Tuscolo. Quindi ci troviamo veramente in un grande complesso storico, artistico, culturale e noi come amministrazione siamo veramente orgogliosi e ci impegniamo giornalmente.
Memories and so on. And probably due to the fact that Voynich found in this activity the possibility of very good business. It was.
I'm very pleased to see you all here in Villa Mondragone. I'm also particularly pleased to be here in Villa Mondragone because it's my first time. I've read a lot about it. And right now I'll use the opportunity to introduce you to our program for today. And many people have already asked me, is this the second or third or how many is conference? And it's obviously the biggest conference ever held on the Voynich manuscript, but there was an earlier opportunity in the 1970s organized by Mary D'Imperio. We have to remember that it was well recorded. There are some documents about what people have been talking about at the time.
Michel Smith, che con me nel comitato organizzativo, hanno lavorato molto per discovery of classical manuscripts, enthusiastic lover of antiquity, with a modus operandi and a variety of interests, almost journalistic. Poggio touched themes and tried his hand at different genres, such as philology, linguistic, invective.
That book of records, this portrait was included. Now, during the trouble,
the earlier time of the manuscript. Now, all details we know from the letter from Marzi that could be verified until now have proven to be accurate. So that explains partly the high amount. But it's also interesting to see that in this description, realistic looking plans in the Voynich manuscript. Now, Dioscurides, you see a rather different style. The one on the left is the earliest copy, the Vienna Dioscurides, a really magnificent book.
Pigments or dyes or modern parchment, and we didn't find any. It is not particularly precise. I think all inks pretty much look alike for a very large stretch of time. So there is, all right. The work on radiocarbon dating was carried out when the cow or the sheep was alive that provided its skin for the manuscript.
Making theories wasn't really good enough to build upon in the way that I hoped. You know, we got evidence. And all these different things, they kind of touched it to what they found. They weren't trying to mess it up. They were rational people who love books. I think they were librarians. Took manuscripts from
This also has book numbers in the top margins.
But he did need the money.
Please go need to.
Vielleicht sind die manchmal eine Männer, ja. Trotzdem ist das natürlich auch, dann müsste man die Zeit noch.
Interesting things whatsoever in it. There's no beaches, no mountains, no forests. No, it starts at the top of the character and goes down below the baseline. And then there are those two tails of words. But then you can fix a given size of a given number of words and count how many distinct repetitive than the labels, right? Here is almost 80% of the rather than in one way, some people read in another way. So I've thrown all those out.
There are various different ideas that he had. It's sort of eclectic, different ideas that he's had over the years working with. He's actually working with the grill and other thoughts, so you'll see here. He's going to cover things.
Hello to everyone in the Voynich world. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to the conference, but I sprained my shoulder, and if I carry anything heavy, then it hurts, which is why I'm here today without any bags or anything.
He hasn't spent any money on it. Well, I tend to agree with him on this point, because if you're making a hoax, as he says, you're considering a return on your investment, so you're going to...
I think that you can learn a lot about the Voynich manuscript by looking at the practical issues involved in putting a document together using the technology of the period. And that's one of the things that I've been looking at in my recent work, looking at what sort of effects do you get if you're using oak gall ink with a quill pen, for example, which I think might be an explanation for some of the overwrites in the manuscript. But also looking at some of the practical issues involved in using a particular technology like table and grills. Tables and grills will produce some side effects which you can then look for in the Voynich manuscript.
Well, I will. Materials, cost and availability, scribal issues, actually putting it on the vellum.
I'm Klaus Schmey, and this is the text we want to examine. It's 230 pages of text, 170,000 characters, and usually it's not a big... This is a frequency analysis made by Kevin Knight a couple of years ago. Most of you will know that there are different transcriptions of the Voynich manuscript. Problem number 2 is, as you see here, the same letter can be transcribed as 1 character, or as 2, or even as 3. Well, so if we look at these 4 problems, problem number 1, transcription, we have at least 5 choices. For the multi-character glyphs, at least 2 choices. Apply statistical methods, well, no problem, but there are quite a few of them. The way you have to proceed, if you want to make a statistical examinations, you must make as many comparisons as possible and try to find what you get.
4 further German words are found, but written always in an old and odd orthography. On the top, with maybe 2 large drops trickling down. The animal underneath has horns. One is a bit faded.
And a parchment by in Florence in 1907. Well, a man with a knowledge to produce a manuscript with medieval peculiarities and use it.
Various types of glassware and whatnot, but I can tell you, in fact, that this particular one is actually a microscope, and I know that for a fact. Curious, and that's my little area I focus on. But then there's a second point, and this is an important point to me because I used to think that the Voynich was probably an actual notebook of observations and whatever.
A lot of things have to be done there. I will just go into the details. That's the way of illustration plans in this time, and we speak about the medieval time and before.
before was totally different in different places.
Of astronomy, what is it? It shows an Arabic vase.
You see in the Voynich, the star in the middle. It's a so-called stomach stone, where you lie down when you get the massage. We see this is a protection of one of the historical...
Es wird jetzt völlig neu gebaut von innen an der Palazzo-Sani.
This is exactly the part which I found in the German Pharmaceutical Museum.
Maybe possible. Yeah. The point of like Google is it's one of these things where
But I mean, obviously the person in the Voynich looks as if it's not taken earlier. This is again. I have hope maybe we can. Oh, it is off maybe time. It's not plastic. For example, this A, you see the small A in the alphabet,
so
the right amount.
How does it work?
Which looks different, but I mean, what should I say? I mean, we had a great conference, and it was the end of the first 100 years of Voynich research, and I think research will be focused a bit more now in the coming years, and there are some new opportunities and new hints that could take us to the solution, hopefully in a couple of years. I'm fairly confident.